The first time Emily Carter realized how cruel silence could be, she was standing under the harsh white lights of a hospital hallway, staring at her own reflection in a glass door and barely recognizing herself. Her hair was gone, not thinned, not short, completely gone. And in that quiet moment, before anyone said a word, before anyone turned away, she understood that her life had just split into a before and an after. What she did not know was that somewhere in the same small American town, a single father named Daniel Miller was about to make a choice that would change both of their lives forever. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and love that goes beyond appearances, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that humanity still exists. Emily had grown up in a modest neighborhood in Ohio, raised by a mother who worked double shifts at a grocery store and a father who died when she was still a child. She learned early how to be strong, how to smile through exhaustion, and how to dream quietly so disappointment would not feel too heavy. By her mid-20s, she was working as a receptionist at a small insurance office, saving money, and believing that her life, though simple, was moving in the right direction. Then the headaches began, then the dizziness, then the diagnosis that shattered everything: cancer. Chemotherapy did what it was supposed to do, attacking the disease, but it also stripped Emily of what the world seemed to value most in a woman. Her hair fell out in clumps, then entirely. She tried scarves, then wigs, but even the best ones felt like lies. Eventually, she stopped hiding it. She told herself that surviving mattered more than beauty, but the world did not always agree. When Emily returned to work, she felt the stares before she heard the whispers. Some coworkers were kind but distant, others awkwardly polite. Her boyfriend at the time, a man she thought would stand by her, slowly began pulling away. First fewer calls, then canceled plans, then finally the words that cut deeper than any needle ever had. He said he could not be with someone who reminded him of sickness, of fear, of what life could take away. He said he wanted a normal future. He left, and Emily learned that rejection does not always come loudly. Sometimes it comes quietly, wearing excuses. From that point on, dating became a minefield of silent judgments. Men smiled politely but never called back. Online conversations ended abruptly after video chats. Each rejection reinforced a cruel message she never asked to learn, that her worth had been reduced to what was missing from her head. Daniel Miller lived only 15 minutes away, though at that time Emily had no idea he existed. Daniel was 38, a widower, and the father of a 7-year-old boy named Noah. His wife, Rebecca, had died in a car accident 3 years earlier, leaving behind a house filled with memories and a man who learned overnight how to braid hair for school mornings, cook dinners, and be both parents at once. Daniel worked as a high school history teacher, steady and dependable, the kind of man who put others first without thinking twice. Daniel met Emily for the first time at a local community fundraiser organized by a church. Noah had dragged him there, excited about the bake sale and games. Emily was volunteering at the registration table, wearing a soft knit cap and a nervous smile. When Daniel noticed her, it was not her baldness that caught his attention, but the gentleness in her eyes, the way she spoke to people with patience, even when they were rushed or rude. Over the following weeks, Daniel saw Emily again and again at church events and volunteer programs. They talked casually at first, about work, about life, about how strange it felt to be surrounded by people yet still lonely. Daniel never asked about her hair, never made it a topic, and that alone felt like a small miracle to Emily. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen as a whole person, not a condition. As their connection deepened, Emily found herself opening up about her illness, her treatments, and the rejection she had faced. Each time she shared a piece of her story, she braced herself for discomfort or pity. What she received instead was quiet understanding. Daniel listened the way someone listens when they are not waiting to respond but trying to understand. He talked about losing Rebecca, about raising Noah alone, about how life had taught him that love was fragile and precious and never guaranteed. Eventually, Daniel asked Emily to dinner. The night before, Emily stood in front of her mirror for a long time, touching her bare scalp, fighting the familiar fear that once he saw her fully, he might see her differently. She went anyway, because something in Daniel felt safe, and safety was rare. They dated slowly, carefully, building something grounded in honesty. Noah adored Emily almost immediately, drawn to her warmth and the way she treated him like a person, not just a child. For the first time since her diagnosis, Emily began to imagine a future that was not defined by loss. But the world has a way of testing even the strongest hearts. At a family gathering on Daniel's side, a distant relative made an unthinking comment about Emily's appearance, suggesting that Daniel deserved someone more put together. The words were said casually, but they landed like stones. Emily laughed it off in the moment, but that night old wounds reopened. She wondered if she was holding Daniel back, if one day he would wake up and see what everyone else saw, a woman marked by illness, different, incomplete. The breaking point came when Emily overheard a conversation at a grocery store, strangers whispering about her as she passed. The shame she thought she had conquered came flooding back. That evening, she pulled away from Daniel, convinced that loving her meant accepting a burden he did not deserve. Daniel sensed the shift immediately. He watched the woman he loved retreat into herself, her smiles fading, her confidence crumbling under the weight of other people's cruelty. He realized then that loving Emily was not just about companionship, it was about standing beside her when the world tried to tell her she was less. One morning, Daniel made a decision that surprised even himself. He stood in his bathroom, looking at his reflection, thinking about all the times Emily had been reduced to her appearance. Without ceremony, he picked up his razor and shaved his head completely. When Noah saw him, his eyes widened. Then he smiled, proud of his dad's boldness. That day, Daniel took Emily to the park, where they had shared their first long conversation. When she saw him, bald like her breath caught. The vulnerability of the gesture overwhelmed her. Daniel explained that he was tired of living in a world that measured worth by superficial things. He told her that if people were going to stare, they could stare at both of them. He wanted her to know she was not alone, not now, not ever. In that moment, Emily felt something break open inside her, something healed. For the first time since cancer entered her life, she did not feel like the odd one out. She felt chosen. Weeks later, surrounded by close friends, family, and a very excited Noah, Daniel asked Emily to marry him. There was no grand spectacle, just sincerity, trembling hands, and a promise of partnership built on respect and courage. Emily said yes through tears that carried more relief than sorrow. Their wedding was small, held in the same church where they had first met. Emily walked down the aisle without a wig, her head held high. Daniel stood waiting, bald and smiling, a symbol of solidarity and love that spoke louder than any vow. Life after marriage was not a fairy tale without hardship. Emily continued regular checkups, living with the uncertainty that cancer leaves behind. Daniel continued juggling work and fatherhood, but together they built a home where love was measured in patience, in shared burdens, and in the quiet understanding that beauty was never about hair or perfection, but about resilience. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment now to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach more people who may feel alone. Emily eventually began speaking at support groups, telling her story to women who felt invisible because of illness or difference. She told them about rejection, yes, but more importantly, about the man who shaved his head not to save her, but to stand with her. Daniel would sit in the back, holding Noah's hand, proud of the strength in the woman he loved. Before this story ends, I want to ask you something special. Please comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. Emily once believed that losing her hair meant losing her chance at love. Daniel proved that real love does not ask you to hide your scars, it honors them. And in a world that often looks away from pain, Their story stands as a reminder that the bravest love is the kind that says, without words, I am with you, exactly as you are.